Chrissy Metz plays Kate Pearson, one of three siblings in our favourite TV family on NBC's This Is Us. I'm Rob Licuria, Senior Editor here at Color Derby. Chrissy, first of all, Kate's story has really taken a fascinating turn this season as we explore her being a new mum. What were your initial reactions to finding out where this season was going to take you?
Well, initially I was afraid. I was like, a baby, a real life baby that I have to be responsible for. But then I, quickly realized how important the storyline is going to be for so many people who watch the show, and whether they're, having fertility issues or a hard time conceiving, or they have a child with a disability. You don't really get to see that on network television. And in such a beautiful way that Dan Fogelman and the writers have created is really special. So I feel really honored to take on something that we haven't seen and that is pretty challenging.
Yeah, you've touched on this, but we watch This Is Us because obviously we're following this journey with this family, but we're also, a lot of us can relate to various things about family and love and loss. And with your character's story, and Toby, this is, if you had fertility issues, I've been there, I can totally kind of relate to that. And it really kind of resonated with me personally. And I'm wondering, did you get a lot of feedback from people out on the street or in the media about how that particular storyline has kind of touched them?
Oh, absolutely. And even friends who I didn't know were doing IVF, they were like, oh my goodness, I didn't tell you because we weren't sure what was going to happen, but now it's on the show and I feel like I want to share it with you. And it's kind of amazing that, so many people are contending with an issue. And when you want something so desperately, to feel, watching a television show, you feel less alone is really special. But yeah, a lot of people reached out, whether social media or even, in real life. So it's been fascinating to see how people, navigate that whole world, and then whether they were able to conceive or they weren't, or they end up going, the adoption route or whatever. It's just been able to bring us all together, whether they're my friends, that we've deepened our relationship, or strangers who just want to share what they've been going through. And of course, then it informs me, and I feel grateful because you can research all day long, but when you get to hear it from somebody who's actually experienced it, you're like, oh, wow, like, I hope I can do this particular storyline, there's no responsibility. And so there's, I want to honor that.
Yeah. The other really fascinating aspect of the particular storyline is how, I'll put it this way. I remember when the season premiered back in September, I just happened to be in Hawaii, and we had put the kids down to bed, and we thought, okay, let's watch the premiere of This Is Us. And I'm still blown away all these months later at how they threaded those different timelines together. And then we discover that this musician guy, this Jack, happens to be Kate and Toby's son, and he's blind. We still talk about that episode. It was so well done. And I'm just wondering, what were your thoughts when you read it and then when you were doing that particular episode?
Yeah, for me, of course, being a singer myself and knowing how important music is for me, and then of course for Blake, who plays Jack, and then for Mandy, also a singer who plays Rebecca, it's art imitating life in a way that, like, we could pull from real experiences of, Mandy's had a career, I am having a budding music career, Blake's been on Broadway, but then as far as the characters go, to know that, like, Rebecca put it on the back burner, and then Kate's sort of put it on the back burner because she wanted to start a family as well, but then to see, obviously Rebecca's grandkid and then Kate Toby's child pursue what they both wanted, I was like, okay, I'm a mess, I can't handle it. And then when Dan showed me the clip of Blake singing at the Greek theater, I was like, this is a grainy, terrible video, but I'm sobbing. Thanks, Dan. Yeah, it's just so beautifully done, and every parent, I believe, wants their child to do better than they did. And it just means a lot. And especially because he was contending and is contending with a disability, which we all might have a disability of some sort. So maybe it isn't always physical or outwardly noticeable, but everybody loves that story of triumph, you know, from tragedy to triumph. So yeah, it really meant a lot to me.
It's so amazing how this show is able to pick up on those nuances. Like the tragedy to triumph is a big one, but also, as you say, everybody who has children wants their children to succeed. That's the dream. And to see that happen for Jack, while his mother and grandmother had to put that particular ambition on the sideline, really, really resonates. And it kind of resonates throughout the whole show. I want to change tack for a bit, and then we'll come back to This Is Us, because just talking about you being a singer, that's a really big part of your life and your career. And it really kind of hit home for many of us who maybe weren't quite aware of that when we saw the Oscars not long ago. So you recently starred in Breakthrough, which led to you actually singing on the Oscars stage. That would have been, firstly, such an honor, and secondly, terrifying. So I'd like to know all about that particular experience.
Yeah, it is an absolute honor. And I remember, you know, watching Oscars growing up and thinking that stage and, you know, how intimidating the room is. And I was like, oh my gosh, if I could ever be there one day, I only want to be there if I've earned it. And because Breakthrough was, as I always say, the little engine that could, the movie that didn't really have a huge, massive marketing campaign behind it. And it was like grassroots. And then Diane wasn't sure I should sing the song. And then I ended up singing the song because Devon Franklin, our producer, pitched me for it. All of the stars sort of just aligning. And then for it to be nominated, I remember watching the announcements in my bed, in my pajamas, freaking out. And then to be on the stage singing, it was like, what? Like, but I keep telling everybody this, but I think everyone around me was more nervous than I was. My nerves definitely manifested physically, like in my stomach. But when I was on stage, I was like, I'm just going to actually just sing this to anybody who needs somebody to honestly just stand with them. And particularly, I was singing to my mom at that moment. So I just was like, whatever. I'm just going to be your present moment. I'm just going to sing the song. And that's all I have to do. And yeah, it was very surreal. And it happened very quickly. And I was like, oh, but I did try to relish the moments. But yeah, it was, I think everybody else was much more anxious than I was. Rightfully so. I get it.
Yeah, because like when the announcement's happening and you hear, you know, this, I'm not saying with you, you've been nominated for Breakthrough. I would have, if I were you, I'd be like, there's a possibility I'm going to be singing on that stage. And then obviously that eventuated. And it just made me realize, given that, you know, your career has kind of gone like this over the last few years, could you ever have imagined you'd be in this particular situation? You got 2 Golden Globe nominations, an Emmy nomination, you sang on the Oscar stage. Like, it's a pretty good run.
Don't make me cry. I'm an emotional girl. Yeah. You know, it's when somebody puts it together in like a sentence. Yeah. I'm like, oh my gosh. Yeah, all these things did happen. I really try to live in the moment. So when you've said it all together, I'm like, holy moly. It's definitely not lost on me, but I never could have really imagined all of this would happen in like the span of 4.5 years. Just so grateful. And yeah. Don't get me emotional.
I know, but it's true because like you were on American Horror Story, and like there's like so many other actors. You look at the performances of actors that you don't know, and you think, "Wow, what an interesting performance! That's fantastic. I wonder if I'll see him or her again." And then you just happen to maybe catch a lucky break, or you're in the right place at the right time, and you delivered a great performance or an audition or whatever it is, and you end up in this place. And which leads me to this. So when I spoke to you a couple of years ago, you said it was a really beautiful thing you said to us. It was like something like, I still feel like I'm proving myself. And then you said you suit up and show up every day for yourself. And you're always worried about whether you might not be performing properly or perfectly, but you just kind of go in there, you do your best and see what happens, and you try to be authentically truthful. Do you still feel that way?
Yes, I do still feel like I'm proving myself. I mean, I've really only been professionally acting for like 5 years. I mean, professionally by like somebody else paying me. And it's such an honor to be able to do what you love to do. But I definitely feel like I'm like new, just the new girl on the block, still trying to figure it out, still trying to suit up and work for myself and deal with all of the things that life throws at you while you're managing an incredible career. And I definitely don't have it figured out. And I definitely, I'm in it for the long game, so yeah, I'm just trying to suit up and show up for sure.
Yeah. It's a really good way to be, because we're all like that. No matter whether you're an actor or you do anything in your profession, you suit up and you show up. And if you don't and not be authentic, then what's the point? You might as well stay in bed. Which really into this. So there's been a lot of recognition for the actors, particularly on this show. So last year at the Emmys, I happened to actually see you walk past me on the red or purple carpet, I should say. And I was like, wow, look at all these amazing actors who have been nominated in the past, nominated this year. I think Milo, Sterling, Chris, Michael, Ron, Felicia were nominated last year. And you were nominated a couple of years before that. You've got 2 SAG Ensemble Awards, which is amazing. What does it do for the cast to be so beloved by their peers and to kind of get together at award shows like that?
Well, it's so fun because our show isn't linear. We don't always get to spend time together unless there's a holiday. The current Pearsons get together, but I don't get to see Milo, and we're not always in the same room or same storyline. So it's really fun to celebrate. And really, as ridiculous as it might sound, to be nominated is definitely like the honor. But when you win, especially when you're stacked up against like these cable ensemble shows who have crazy budget and really no rules or regulations, like they don't have to write the commercials and they don't have to worry about what they say or what they show or the content. It's so exciting. Like, I remember I laugh with my best friend all the time about it, but like when we won last year for the ensemble, the SAG award, I screamed like I won like the World Cup. Like it was like this guttural scream of surprise, and I'm still embarrassed about it, but it's so fun. It's so fun to celebrate with people you really love, who work so hard. When people do things really well, it looks easy, but people don't realize what it all entails. So it's always just really fun and really exciting.
Yeah, I'm going to see if I can find footage of that screen from that table when you won the second one. I love it, because it's like the first one would have been like, wow, we won, what a surprise. The second one's more like a stamp of approval, like you win again because we love you that much. I love it. To be and by your peers is always really special. Yeah. Now, talking about the show again, this season's seen a lot of challenges, as we've talked about, like every season on this show. Like, it's a drama, so it's not like as if we're just going to spend a day with you guys traveling to work or watching TV. But for Kate now, she's a new mum, but she's also grappling with this weight journey, as Toby is also doing it kind of in the inverse. And there's been, especially earlier in the season, there was a bit of that conflict. So what are your thoughts about how the show's portraying that aspect of your character's life?
Oh, I think it's so real. I've been previously married, and I had a husband who lost a bunch of weight on his own accord. We weren't battling a paternity issue, but it's always hard when anyone in the relationship sort of decides to walk on another journey, especially without their significant other, because you feel like, oh, great, like here I am, just left in the dust. What? Especially because Kate felt like she was the one really handling Jack's diagnosis. And because Toby had his own issues, he was sort of absent. But the way that he got through it was obviously through exercise. And so, we all fill the void with something. And I think it's really important to show that you can have trials and tribulations in a relationship, but that you can also come back together if two people are really willing to work on their issues. Some people just throw in the towel and they're like, oh, forget it. And sometimes that's what's best for them. But I love that Kate and Toby are like, no, like, we're going to dig in and do this. But there are ebbs and flows, peaks and valleys for sure. And, it was a little touch and go for some time. Everyone's like, wait, are they going to make it? Like, what's going to happen? But I think it shows people, and myself included, like, being honest about what's really going on is essential to any sort of productive, loving relationship. But throwing a child in, much less one with a disability, is something completely different. So they both handled it the best way that they knew how. And like I always say, like, when you know better, you do better. So I think they're trying to do that, and it's not perfect. Yeah.
And the other nuance that the show does really beautifully is, and it's something that I've become quite fascinated by. I have a daughter myself. It's how body issues shaped Kate growing up, and how timely and prevalent that theme is for young girls and women today. And, Hannah and Mackenzie do such a beautiful job in kind of portraying your character as well. The casting's incredible. But what about how the show does that, about how it shaped Kate who she is today, her body issues growing up, and how fascinating that is?
Yeah, I think, again, another really important topic, that whether you're underweight or overweight, or just, there's so much pressure to look a certain way, to talk a certain way, to, fit into a particular mold or an idea of what society and mass media thinks that women should look like. So that comes into play. And then, of course, when, she loses Jack, who, like, her first love of her life, that whole guilt and shame really affects her self-esteem. And then, of course, she in turn starts dating Mark, who is not a very nice human being, because he has his own issues, obviously. And then that, in these very formative years of her life, create even worse self-esteem. So there's a lot that she's sort of trying to navigate, and we are going to see next season some other issues that nobody knows about yet, that will play have played a huge role in why she decided to, a lot of people, if they've been through something traumatic, will want to eat over it, whether they're soothing themselves or they're trying to create a physical barrier between intimacy with anybody else. And so, we're going to see that play out. But it's one of those stories that, like I said, you could be under or overweight, but it's still the mentality about self-worth and self-esteem. So I've had so many teenage girls and women alike who were like, I was Kate. Like, I experienced that manipulative relationship, and it really changed me, and it's taken me a long time to get through that. So there's a lot that she's been battling. But it's an important, very important storyline for women and for men,
Absolutely. Yeah, it's universal. And why am I not surprised that we're going to delve even deeper into these issues? People watching this video right now, I guess you should get prepared that there'll be more tears as we continue watching This Is Us. That's what it's all about, isn't it? And Chrissy, thank you so much for your time and for sharing those thoughts with us, and good luck for the rest of the season and for next season as well.
Thank you. And so good to see you and to talk with you. And I appreciate it so much.
Now, everybody, while you're here, go to goldderby.com, make your prediction for This Is Us, and click subscribe so you can watch all of our amazing chats with contenders just like Chrissy.